Hi everyone, this is Sally with Paint with Joy, and today I'm going to be showing you how to paint purple coneflowers. These are the colors that I'm using by Montmartre, and so what you need is to have some green, yellow, and magenta on your plate, and you're going to be wetting your paintbrush and loading it with that green paint. And what I did was I alternated between the green and the yellow. And I'm using the flat brush. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So this is the flat brush. And then you take your dry mop brush and just swirl it around lightly over top of the paint that you just set down. Make sure to dry that mop brush thoroughly between uses. So you're just going to work in small sections on your canvas, and after you lay down the green and the yellow paint, you're going to go back in with your mop brush and just lightly wipe over that to just kind of smooth out any kind of rough edges. But this is supposed to be a very blurred looking background, and that's what that mop brush is going to help do. Go ahead and paint over top of the ovals that you see around the pre-drawn canvas, but try to leave your flower, the big cone flower in the center. Try to leave that white. You do want to kind of go up in between some of those petals with the green, but everything else on the canvas you can pretty much cover with your green and yellow paint. Remember, mop it with a dry mop brush and wipe that mop brush off thoroughly between every use. Just brightening up the background a little bit with some more yellow. And you can have your background as dark as you wish or as light as you wish. But next, the next step is to take your flat brush, and I didn't clean it off. I'm just grabbing a little tiny bit of magenta on the corner of the brush. And then you can see I'm loosely covering over where those two ovals were at the top. I even added a little bit of yellow to that mixture. And this is just supposed to be faded in the background, the hint of more coneflowers in and around the main coneflower in the middle. So you're just going to use a tiny bit of magenta on the tip of that or on the corner of that brush, and just loosely paint it in where those pre-drawn areas were. And here I am adding some green and yellow to that as well. So this is meant to just fade into the background. And I'm going to be using the mop brush in a second to further blur those images in. So that's how you do this part of the painting. And always remember to dry off that mop brush. You don't want any paint to be left on there. Now I sped this painting up 2 times faster than what I actually painted. So make sure that you just pause the video anytime you need to take your time painting. Now here I've mixed up I'm still using the flat brush. I mixed up some yellow and green to just make a lighter green color. And I'm using just the edge of the flat brush to paint in these stems. Now remember that acrylic paints are meant to be put down in layers. So if you don't like anything that you've done the first time around, once it dries, you can go back and fix it by just adding some new layers. So now that I have my stems done, it's time to let this dry for about 10 minutes. Now I'm coming back and I'm going to I use the filbert brush and I'm going to mix a little bit of this orange. I separated it and put just a tiny bit of blue in there. And we're making brown to paint the coneflower heads, the centers. So we're making brown, and I added just a very tiny bit of black, but I felt like it was too dark, so you can see I'm mixing a little more orange in there. But we want it to be a brown color, and you're going to just paint those centers, starting with the main coneflower in the middle. And notice the triangular shapes right at the bottom or the base of this first oval. You're going to paint into those little triangular shapes too. Those are between the petals. It's very dark between the petals. So when you put see how I'm adding those little triangular shapes. That'll help define and separate the tops of all your petals to have that brown in there between them. And you're using the same brown, you're going to paint the other cone shapes as well, the other centers of the flowers. So this one's behind this coneflower, and it's actually going to be a little bit muted in the background as well. There's another two more partial cones, one in the bottom of the canvas at the very bottom in the center, and one on the corner, the right-hand bottom corner. So just use this brown and paint your cones. So now I'm going to clean off the filbert brush a bit and just use kind of a watery mixture of the brown and lay down a little bit of that brown right there in the center of the left side faded flowers and a little bit at the top. And here I am just adding some little bits of brown here and there. I used the mop brush, but it wasn't very effective because my paint was just too dry. So I used my finger to kind of smudge it. And later in the video, you'll see I go back over that and add a little bit of green and yellow to further fade those in the background. And like I said before, this is acrylics can be layered, and whatever you don't like this first time around, you can fix it later. So with the clean filbert brush, now I'm going to be using um, orange at the tip of the filbert brush and just dab, 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 dab a bunch of specks all over the cones. And these little spikes are what holds the pollen onto the flower. So you're just dabbing lightly all over, especially concentrate around the top. And it can go a little bit outside of the brown edge. You want it to kind of look like it's fuzzy on the top. And I kind of let this orange fade into the brown as I go down farther into the cone, and you'll see. But once you get some of the orange down on your cones, then you're going to add some yellow to it. But this is all done in a dabbing motion. And just little quick dabs, and have fun with it. Now I'm wiping off some of the excess orange, and I'm just kind of going to brush this orange into this cone that is behind the flower. I'm not really doing a lot of dabbing here, and you can see I'm kind of smudging it with my finger. As I said, this is supposed to be kind of look like it's in the background, a little more faded than the other cones are. So you're just going to kind of lightly brush some of that orange on there, but you don't want your paintbrush to be loaded with the orange. I had wiped it off in my paper towel first, and there I am wiping it again. So same thing down here. I am going to dab some of the orange on that one eventually, but there I am. I'm dabbing some of it on there. But these are not supposed to be as prominent in the picture as, of course, the one in the center. Now I'm going to add some yellow and dab over the top of this cone in the center. Now we're brightening up this orange color with the yellow. So just have fun with it. I'm going between orange and yellow and concentrating mostly at the top portion of the cone, just back and forth with yellow and orange. Once you're done with the cones, you're going to be using the filbert brush. You need to have it cleaned off thoroughly. And now we're going to grab some of the magenta. We're going to be using magenta and white. So I'm loading first with a lot of magenta, and then I just scooped a little tiny bit of white onto my brush. And you're going to start painting your petals. You're going to go from one end towards the center and then go back to the other end and do the same thing going down towards the center. You want your petals to be streaked with magenta and white. And when you put down your first layer, you might feel like all of these petals just look like one big blob. Don't worry about that, because you're going to be showing the separation between each petal with the different layers of whites and magentas that you apply. So remember, take your time, go magenta and streaks of white, and eventually your petals are going to just turn out beautifully. Back and forth, magenta and white. Trying to keep those points up at the top nice and pointed or rounded, and the same thing with your ends at the bottom of each petal. Just have some fun. Now I'm drying off my brush and I'm going to go straight into the magenta and just kind of add some of this darker color right at the base coming out down into the petal. So right at the base of the cone and then just kind of streaking it out towards the end of the petal. This is just adding some shadow to the top portion of your petals. So just straight magenta and that will darken it. Now my brush is wet. It still has some of this pink color on it, and I'm just lightly putting a hint of the pink between these petals, smudging it with my fingers as though there were some petals underneath there, and then kind of around the base of this other larger cone in the background. And this is very wet paint. It's a very thin wash of pink paint. And again, just smudge it with your fingers. And it's just meant to be the hint of some more petals around the center of the big coneflower and the others. Again, this is very wet paint, and I'm just adding some more over here to the left side. And I'm going to be pushing that to the background in a bit by adding some green and yellow to that. But I am using the mop brush that time along with my finger to smudge it. I'm going to be adding a little bit of this wet pink wash up at the top portion too. So as you can see, just adding a little hint of color, very wet, and then smudge it into the background. Now I'm just adding some more highlights to the petals here and there. And basically, you should be fairly done with most of your painting at this point. This is kind of the time that you go back and add some more details. You're just layering and smudging and adding more colors here and there, just to finish it up and get it the way you like it. So I hope that you had fun painting along with this video, and if you did have a good time and enjoyed yourself, please like the video, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And I really hope that you had fun with paint today, and I hope that you really love your painting when you're done with it. So have a good time. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.